I'm in group 3, and our section's question is how and why do countries regulate trade? So some of the main points are over time, countries have found many reasons to regulate foreign trade. Many countries restrict imports in order to shield domestic markets from foreign competition. This is known as protectionism. Countries use tariffs to raise revenue and to protect domestic industries from competition from cheaper foreign goods. A protective tariff is the most common type of trade barrier, which is a tax on imported goods. They don't benefit consumers because tariffs push up the prices of imported goods, thus tariffs making all goods more expensive for consumers. Import quotas place a limit on the quantity of a good that can be imported during a specific period of time. Like tariffs, quotas are designed to protect domestic industries. Sometimes they can cause smuggling because producers try to find ways to exceed the quota limits. The third type of trade barrier is a trade embargo, which imposes a ban on trade with a country or group of countries, usually for political reasons. All trade embargoes have a mixed record. While they are successful, they pressure countries to change their policies. The fourth type of trade barrier is known as a voluntary export restraint, which is a type of barrier that limits the quantity of a good that can be exported from a country during a specific time period. In most cases, VERs aren't voluntary because they are usually established from an importing country and are designed to avoid harsher restrictions such as tariffs or import quotas. There is a lot of debate over trade restrictions, but economists generally agree that free trade promotes economic growth and is good for consumers. Domestic producers, labor unions, and political leaders continue to support trade restrictions. There are 6 different arguments.
The first argument is the job argument, which states that allowing cheap imports to a country destroys jobs by forcing domestic companies to cut costs, lay off workers, or even go out of business. And the second argument is the national security argument, which states that industries that are vital to national security must be protected. Defense industries and producers of critical resources like oil and steel are included in this category. The third is the infant industry argument. This argument says such infant industries, which are newly formed industries, will eventually become strong enough to stand on their own. The fourth argument is the unfair competition argument, which asserts that trade is fair only if all countries play by the same rule. And the fifth argument is the protection as bargaining chip argument, which states that trade restrictions can be a useful bargaining tool in trade negotiation with other countries. And the final argument is the environmental and labor standards argument, which supporters argued that countries with lax environmental or labor laws have an economical advantage over countries that must comply with stricter laws. To make this fair, they say countries with stricter laws should impose tariffs against countries that do not uphold similar standards. And trade restrictions are still widespread mostly because of the political process, and many countries have incentives to promote free trade. However, the biggest incentive is to be able to sell their products abroad and earn export revenues. For that reason, countries have negotiated international trade agreements to reduce trade barriers.
There are 7 vocab words in our section, and the first one is customs, which is the government agency that examines goods entering a country and enforces the trade restrictions. The second vocab word is free trade, which is the policy of eliminating barriers to international trade, and this allows goods and services to move more freely across borders. The third vocab word is protectionism, and this is a policy of erecting trade barriers to shield domestic markets from foreign competition. The fourth is an import quota, which is a limit on the quantity of a good that can be imported during a specific period of time, and this is also a trade barrier. The fifth is a voluntary export restraint, and it's also known as a VER, and this is a limit on the quantity of a good that can be exported during a specific period of time, and this is also a trade barrier. The sixth is a trade embargo, which is a ban on trade with a country or group of countries, and this is usually for political reasons. And the last vocab word is a protective tariff, and this is a tax on imported goods designed to protect domestic producers from foreign competition, and this is the last type of trade barrier.
My group's real-world and current situation ties to our content are, according to the WTO, the World Trade Organization, trade is expected to fall between 13% and 32% due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to travel and transport restrictions, exports from North America and Asia will be affected the most out of every other continent. The European Commission is proposing many changes to the EU steel import quota system due to the pandemic. It is focused on protecting some of the smaller export countries from being pushed by quotas from bigger countries. Thank you all for listening.